Good morning, traders, and welcome to Morning Majors, a show where we look at the opportunities that could be setting up in the major currency pairs for the day ahead. Now, before we get into the show, I need to remind you that everything that we talk about here is for educational purposes only, and none of it should be used as investment advice. So, the Australian dollar. Looking at the Australian dollar, we were looking at this resistance area yesterday. If I zoom in there a little bit. So, we're looking at this area of previous level of support becomes resistance. And ultimately look and see what we could do with that level. Now the market has shown its hand and shown that it wants to sell off from that level. We can see opportunities on the 15-minute chart here, or even if we were to drill down to something like a 5-minute chart, I would say that the market really is kind of showing that it wants to sell off at the moment. It's not to say that it couldn't go on a bit of a rally and retest this resistance level over here. But it certainly does mean that the momentum at the moment, and if you look at the candles here and you look at this momentum, the momentum is really kind of moving to the downside. We've got lower highs here, so we had this double top, and now what we've got is we've got lower highs. So we've got a high here, a high that's lower than the previous high, and then we've got lower lows as well. So we've got a low here, a lower low, and another lower low. So what I'm going to be looking for in the Australian dollar is sell opportunities for today. And what that will probably mean is some sort of a pullback or consolidation to the 100 moving average. And then once we get that, a breakdown from there. Looking at the euro dollar is a little bit more tricky. So if we zoom out here just a minute, we've got the daily chart where we can see that ultimately the trend is to the downside, although we were looking for opportunities perhaps to get a bounce off of this trend line here. What we've got instead is a breakdown from the trend line, and what that ultimately means is, if we zoom out here, is that there could be some shorting opportunities. What we need to see before we do start to get short, though, is some momentum, because what we had, and this is something that you need to pay attention to, is that we did have some momentum when the market broke this trend line, but then we had sort of like an equal amount of momentum going against it when the market pulled back. So we had all of the sellers selling off here, and then basically all of the buyers pushing the market back up to where it came from, so to where it began. And that's a bit of a sign where we need to say to ourselves, well, let's just wait a moment and see what the markets really want to do before we get involved in this trade. So that's ultimately what we have to do here. I think now the market will start to move further down, but we need to get a break below this level here. So this support level, the market needs to be trading beneath this level in order for us to be able to start taking shorting opportunities. Looking at the pound dollar, so the pound dollar has been trending down for a while. We've got a reaction to this previous level of support, which was then resistance, and we said it could act as resistance again, and that's exactly what happened. So the market came up to this level, sold off with quite some sort of like momentum there. And now what we need is we need to find an opportunity to sell the market. And what I think that will be is, if we move into the 15-minute chart here, I think ultimately we could get some sort of a break of a trend line, so something like that. Okay, as the market's scooting along it. That will of course be a bit more of an aggressive entry, because we do have this consolidation area here to think about. But certainly once the market does break down from this trend line, then even from a conservative perspective, you need to be looking for shorting opportunities in the pound dollar. But from an aggressive perspective, I may look for a breakdown of this trend line here in order to get an initial short in, and then add more as the market continues to go in my direction. Looking at the New Zealand dollar, so the New Zealand dollar, if we look at it from a longer term perspective, we've got a perfect bounce off of this previous level of support here, which is then acting as a resistance. Again, the market is starting to show its hand. It hasn't quite gone yet, all right? So we've had the market sell off quite aggressively from this level, which is nice. You know, that's kind of like a price action setup in itself. But now if we want to get involved in the momentum when it really starts to assert itself, I think we need to be paying attention to these lows here. All right, so the aggressive entry is to take a break of these lows, sell off, take a sell opportunity as soon as the market breaks the lows here, which I think will probably be a good opportunity. But if you want to be a little bit more conservative, then what you would do is you'd wait for the market to break through this support level and then look for a pullback to it, and that's where you would take your opportunity. Looking at the dollar franc, so the dollar franc is kind of playing around here in the middle of this range. It broke this trend line and then it broke back up above. Today I would say I don't really know which way it's going at the moment. I really think it depends how it reacts to this trend line here as to how we can kind of play it and how we can trade it. So for the moment, I'm just going to say let's just wait for a while and see what happens with this trend line before we look to get involved in the trade. And that's a lesson in itself. It's knowing when not to trade, because it's very, very easy to say, oh, I'm going to take this, I'm going to jump on that, I'm going to jump on this. But ultimately, you need to take the high probability setups, right? The ones that make sense. And at the moment, I just don't think the one in the dollar franc there makes much sense. Similarly for the dollar yen here, what we've got is, if we take a look here, it's probably best shown on the hour chart. If we take a look here, we've got the market sort of, it is moving up, but it's in the middle of this triangle here. So we don't really have a break to the upside, and we haven't had a reaction here to move to the downside. So we're kind of in the middle of a range here. And from that perspective, I took profit on this yesterday, some nice profit on that yesterday. And now really I want to wait until the market gets to one of the key levels before I take the trade. Because the one thing you need as a successful trader is you need momentum, and you need to be trading from logical places. And at the moment we don't really have momentum with this trade, and we're not trading from a logical place either. So really we need to wait until the market either attacks this resistance level here or comes down to the upward sloping trend line there in order to be able to take a trade. Okay? So that wraps up this morning's Morning Majors. I hope you're all enjoying it. Please make sure you like the video, share the video with your friends, and really kind of help us grow this little community here. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.